What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of NFL Turf Talk, brought to you by DSM Media. You can find DSM Media on social media platforms at DSM_media. And of course, I'm your host, Scotty. You can find me on social media platforms at Scotty Drown. Welcome to another episode. Happy Thanksgiving. Happy holidays to everybody out there. If you can't tell, this show is pre-recorded. I recorded this the day before Thanksgiving just to kind of get ahead of it, but make sure we still get the content out there for you guys for the big Thanksgiving slate. All that being said, we're going to have to recap week 12 very quickly here. We're going to get through that. I'm going to do it kind of by going through our top 10 power rankings. So I have updated power rankings with me right here, right now. And we'll kind of just go through those power rankings. We'll talk about the matchups that took place within those power rankings last week, because those are the matchups that obviously really matter going into this week. And then, of course, we'll shortly, move on to the slate upcoming in week 13, including the Thanksgiving slate that has 3 games. We got one game on Black Friday, obviously the Eagles taking on the Bears, and then on Sunday we have obviously a regular Sunday schedule and Monday Night Football along with that. So we'll get you squared away for all of those games, but we do have to close the page, or close the book, on week 12 first here. So I'll get us started there. So let's just start at the top here. We're going to go from 1 to 10, starting with the power rankings here to start the show. So at number 1, nothing really changes from last week, from week 12, leading into it. The Broncos remain at the top. They're 9-2. They were obviously on a bye week last week. They're on an 8-game win streak, and they just continue to play good football. They find ways to win. Obviously, they've had maybe a few more close games than you would like, but a win is a win, if you know how I operate as an Eagles fan and what I always say. So not going to take points away, not taking style points away for winning 8 games in a row as a football team. It's ridiculously hard to do in the NFL. So with that in mind, the Broncos remain at the top. The last thing we could remember from the Broncos is that 22-19 win against the Chiefs 2 weeks ago, which was huge for them in their standings in the AFC West. They control their own destiny at this point, right? Just win the games that you're supposed to the rest of the way as the Broncos, and they'll win that division. Coming in at number 2, this is where you start to see a little bit of change in the power rankings. The Eagles were kind of that perennial number 2 team for us. The last 3-4 weeks or so, pretty much ever since the Broncos beat the Eagles and have been able to kind of start mounting up these wins. They moved ahead of the Eagles, but the Eagles dropped down this week. They're not number 2 anymore. That spot belongs to the LA Rams, who are 9-2. They're coming off a shellacking of beating the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this week, which, by the way, the Bucs are really, really starting to slide. I know they're playing some tougher competition, but the injuries just seem to be mounting up. Baker's beat up. Obviously, Bucky Irvin, just maybe getting back into health, to healthy standing right now. So the Bucs are all beat up. But on the Rams side, you just continue to see Matthew Stafford play at an MVP level. 25 for 35, 273 passing yards, 3 passing touchdowns, 2 to Devontae Adams, who just continues to be a touchdown nightmare at the goal line. They don't even I sit here and watch the Eagles run, tush pushes, Philly brotherly shoves into the end zone, and here the Rams are. They just throw it up for Devontae Adams. He catches it every single time. He gets 2 touchdowns again in this game. He has to be leading. I would have to look here to just double check, but I imagine he has to be leading the NFL in receiving touchdowns. Let's double check here just to see. Yeah, 12. The next best is Amon-Ra St. Brown at 9 touchdowns. And then you got George Pickens at 8 touchdowns. Then you just got a mix, quite a few guys at 7 receiving touchdowns. Goddard, Pittman, Higgins, Trey McBride, Jake Ferguson, JSN. JSN playing the best ball of wide receivers this year, obviously. But nonetheless, you look at the Rams and what they've been able to do. The defense steps up, holds that Tampa Bay offense to 7 points. Once again, I know that Tampa Bay offense is beat up, that's still a really good win at home to win in the fashion that they won, 34-7, dominating right now and scoring a lot of points while doing so. Rams come in at number 2. They're on a 6-game win streak. Number 3, this is the team with the longest win streak in the NFL. The New England Patriots move ahead of the Philadelphia Eagles as well to come in at number 3. The New England Patriots are 10-2 on the season. They're coming off a win against the Cincinnati Bengals, 26-20. And once again, they have the longest win streak in the NFL currently at 9 games. I get it. We've talked about it on this show several times. Their schedule, right? They're coming in. They're getting a last place schedule. You look at some of the teams they played throughout the season. It looks that way, right? But they do have some big wins mixed in there against the Bills, against the Bucks, 2 teams that are playoff teams. The Bucks are sliding like I just discussed, but they're still considered a playoff team, still considered the cream of the crop in their division. So, yeah, that's still a good win. Bills, obviously a division rival. That's a great win. But the bigger thing is that you just continue to stack up consistent wins. And Drake May continues to play some good football. 22 of 35 in this game, 294 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 1 INT in this one. So he did turn the ball over, but New England ultimately gets the dub, moves to 10-2, which easily has to be the surprise of the season. I think early on you would have probably said the Colts, but Patriots continuing to play some good football and quite frankly just aren't dropping as many games. Colts have lost 3 games recently, right? Patriots on a 9-game win streak. That's why they're ahead of a team like the Colts. That's why I say they're the bigger surprise right now. But they come in at number 3. Numbers 4 through 7, I'll say, are very interesting, and I think you can argue them interchangeably right now because they all have the same record. You look at the Eagles, that's who I have coming in at number 4. You could say that's a little biased depending how you feel about the Seahawks, the Colts, the Bears. But I'm going with the Eagles at number 4 because I think they have the best defense of those groups, right? And defense wins championships. Defense creates consistency. It's obvious that their offense needs to pick it up, right? We obviously know where the Eagles are at coming out of that loss against the Dallas Cowboys, where you go up 21-0 in the first quarter and you do not score another point in that game against one of the league's worst defenses. Statistically, they've gotten better, according to some Cowboys fans, some analysts out there. Still a bottom 10 defense, statistically, still a defense that you should have success against consistently as an Eagles offense. So, yes, that was very disappointing. It is why they drop, and it is why I say these 3 teams below them, they're almost interchangeable because of the record placement and the situations. They all have issues that you can point out as we go down this list here. So Eagles come in at number 4 after the loss to Dallas. Number 5, I'm going with another NFC team here. I'm going with the Seattle Seahawks at 8-3. I know they just dropped a game to the Rams 2 weeks ago. The Rams are number 2 in our power rankings. It's not a bad loss, especially by 2 points. It was a bad showing for Sam Darnold. It definitely creates that skepticism that we just have to keep in our minds until we see him have success in the playoffs, is that he can have a game where he throws 4 interceptions. He did that against the Rams. They only end up losing by 2 or 3 points in that matchup. They come out this week. They drop 30 on the Tennessee Titans. They're able to come away with a victory there. 30-24, it got made a little bit closer than what you would like it, I feel, if you're the Seattle Seahawks, but they continue to work with some great balance. And, while I just praised the Eagles of having the best defense in this group, I think it's really close when you talk about the Seattle Seahawks. They have one of the better defensive units in the NFL. It was a little disappointing to see them give up 24 to the Tennessee Titans. But, stuff happens. Things are going to happen. You're going to give up points. You're going to have bad weeks. I think this Seattle defense is good to go. And you see Sam Darnold bounce back in this one. 16 for 26, 244 yards, 2 tutties. Gets JSN obviously heavily involved. I mentioned he's the league leading receiver in yards right now. He comes away with 8 receptions, 167 receiving yards, 2 touchdowns. He had a 63-yard reception in this one. He continues to show out, and it kind of begs the question: is he taking claim of the best wide receiver labeling in the league right now? Is he getting into the conversation with Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson for that title? I think it's kind of undeniable at the rate that he's going right now. With Sam Darnold, like Sam Darnold is, I think at this point we got to accept that Sam Darnold's a good quarterback. He's not the best of the best. He's not a top 10 quarterback for my money. And JSN is leading the league in receiving yards. So I think that kind of benefits him as well, playing with Sam Darnold in that conversation. But the Seahawks come in at number 5 at 8-3, coming off a victory against Tennessee. Number 6, this is where the Colts come in, man. And they were so close. They were so close to basically just staying in front of the Seahawks and the Eagles, right? By getting a W in Kansas City and kind of taking care of business against an AFC team that you very well may have to beat come postseason, especially with Kansas City getting that W. I thought that was going to be the loss that, kind of just knocks Kansas City out of contention. Well, you get that W against Indianapolis. You come back in that game. You're 6-5 now. You're heading to play a team in the Dallas Cowboys that, they're coming off a big win, but the Cowboys are a team that the Chiefs should be able to go on the road and take care of business against if they really want to make the postseason. So what I'm trying to say, the Chiefs have kind of worked themselves back into the playoff conversation just with one win. It's been like that all season. It's the respect you have to give to the Chiefs, a team that has legitimately created a dynasty over the last 5-6 years. So we'll give respect to them, but ultimately the Colts blew this game, man. They blew this game. They led most of the way. Let me just double check here. 14-9 at half. Then they go up 20-9 in the third quarter. Then the Chiefs rail off 11 points in the fourth quarter. Chiefs win in OT with a field goal. Just a disappointing loss for the Colts. I can't say that enough. It's not that Daniel Jones played horribly. Who do you even point at in a loss like this? It really just comes down to the Chiefs making plays to win, finding a way to win a game that is relatively close in production. Rashee Rice was unstoppable. Kareem Hunt ends up with 100 rushing yards and a tutty in this one. So Chiefs found a way to win. It's just a huge loss for the Colts when they had an opportunity to ultimately prove themselves. So we'll see where the Colts go from here. They don't drop too far. They're number 6 in the power rankings this week. Coming in at number 7, this is an interesting team because they get a W against Pittsburgh this week, 31-28. It's a close game at home. This is a Pittsburgh team that was playing without Aaron Rodgers, who broke his wrist the week before. So you get a Mason Rudolph coming into Chicago, and Mason Rudolph ended up 24 for 31, 171 yards, 1 tutty, 1 interception. It was really the running backs of Pittsburgh that kind of got off. You had Gainwell with 10 carries, 92 yards. That's 9.2 yards per carry. And then Jaylen Warren had 18 carries for 68 yards and a touchdown. But ultimately, this was a game that I really wanted to see the Bears kind of step up and take care of business and dominate in. And they weren't able to do that. And they really haven't been able to do that against anyone this season. But being fair to them and what they've been able to put together, they're 8-3. They have won 4 games straight somehow. They come into a big matchup on Black Friday against the Philadelphia Eagles in Philadelphia. And that is the game that you really lock in on and say, if the Bears can find a way to win in Philadelphia against an Eagles team that's coming off a tough loss against Dallas, then you're going to really have to start taking this team seriously. So obviously all eyes shift to the Bears on Friday against Philly. Caleb Williams in this game against the Steelers, he was solid though. 19 for 35, 239 yards, 3 touchdowns, no INTs. DJ Moore had 2 tutties in this one. So we'll continue to learn more about the Bears. They're just they're a confusing team because you have situations earlier this season where They got blown out by the Lions 52-21. Lost to the Vikings early on in the season. But they've also beat the Cowboys by double digits. They beat the Saints by double digits. Got blown out by the Ravens. So, it's kind of gone up and down. It's really hard to gauge what the Chicago Bears are as a team. I do know, just based on my research for the Eagles game coming up, they do hold, I believe, the 27th worst overall defense in the NFL right now. Excuse me. And they do have a laundry list of injury concerns, especially on the defensive side of the ball. So we'll see what they can do. Like I said, this is a big prove it spot for the Bears, but also I'm not saying that to set them up for failure either going into Philadelphia. It's not to say that if they lose, they're going to drop out of the top 10. Nothing like that. They'll be 8-4 if they lose ultimately. But it's definitely a big prove it spot. Bears come in at number 7. Number 8. This is where it got a little tricky because this team is 8-4. I'm talking about the San Francisco 49ers. They're coming off a big W against the Carolina Panthers team that has given multiple teams this season challenges across the board. They go out here, they beat this team by double digits. CMC, does his thing in this game. 24 carries, 89 yards, a touchdown rushing, 7 receptions, 53 yards. Brock Purdy throws 3 interceptions in the first half that I'm sitting there watching and I'm just thinking, like, what the hell is he looking at when he's throwing these passes? I think J.C. Horn had 2 of them. Now, mind you, Bryce Young on the other side, I think he threw 3 interceptions in the first half as well. So these guys were giving it back and forth like it was a hot cake. But that's a concern because I thought, Brock Purdy coming back for this team would be more ball control, more ball safety in a sense. And, 3 interceptions against the Panthers, it's not a great look. He is still working his way back, though. I think this was his second game back from injury, so we'll give him a little bit of grace. 49ers come in at number 8. It's a good W. They've been able to rack up some W's this season, even with the injury concerns that they have. And what they have is a solid identity, I feel, which is, they're going to try to play you physical. Their defense isn't the best in the world. They're going to try to play you physical, take on that identity of Saleh. But more importantly, on the offensive end, you just have that workhorse in Christian McCaffrey that he's having one of those seasons that you're pretty used to seeing from him. So we'll see if the 49ers can continue their success as the season goes on. Number 9, we're going to go with the Green Bay Packers at 7-3-1 on the season. They're coming off a W against the Minnesota Vikings. It was a 23-6 game. This game was interesting for me for one reason only, and it's because the Packers were finally, for my money, able to take care of business against a team that they're supposed to take care of business against. And what I mean is by going out there and dominating the Minnesota Vikings, J.J. McCarthy is not a guy that should be able to come in and, beat the Green Bay Packers in that sturdy defense. So I was happy to kind of see the Packers reinstill some confidence in me as far as them being legit contenders in the NFC. That defense is real. You look at J.J. McCarthy in this game, he was 12 for 19, 87 yards, 2 INTs. I did see he's in concussion protocol going into this week. But no, the Packers take care of business. Can they put a win streak together? They got a big matchup on Thanksgiving against the Detroit Lions in Detroit. That's a team they dominated in week 1, 27-14, I think it was. Double-digit victory. Micah, coming out party, showing his big addition to the defense. What do they look like in Detroit? Can they put some wins together? Put together a streak? Number 10 to close out the top 10 power rankings. It's amazing we've gotten here. Let me take a sip of coffee real quick. It's amazing that we've gotten here. But I do have the Ravens back in the top 10. And it was a hard decision. It was a hard decision. I'm not going to lie to you. They're coming off a W against you. They're they're coming off a W. Excuse me. They're coming off a W against the New York Jets, which obviously isn't the most impressive by any means, of course. But they have racked off 5 straight wins. I'm taking into account that Lamar Jackson has missed a good portion of the season. He's back now. They're winning games consistently. And they have played some tougher defenses recently, like the Cleveland Browns. Jets, obviously 2-10 on the season. They're not a big matchup, but you go out and you stack up W's. That's all I'm looking for. Derrick Henry in this one, 21 carries, 64 yards, 2 touchdowns, though. That's what matters, putting points on the board and finding ways to win, and that's what they've been able to do since Lamar Jackson returned. I'm going to throw out 2 other teams that I thought about, and, I think it would be fair, especially the team I'm about to mention, but the Buffalo Bills, I think it would be fair to put them at number 10, even with coming off the loss to the Houston Texans, who, for my money, they should have taken care of business against, but it was in Houston. Houston's on like a 4 or 5 game win streak right now. They were playing better ball with Davis Mills than they were with CJ Stroud, which is weird, but true nonetheless. Bills 7-4, Ravens 6-5. The big thing for me is the Ravens since Lamar's comeback. They're on a 5-game win streak, while the Bills, the Bills, I want to say, have lost 3 out of their – they've gone 3-3 in their last 6. Let me just double-check that. Don't want to give out incorrect facts here. Lost to the Texans, beat the Bucks, lost to the Dolphins, beat the Chiefs, beat the Panthers, lost to the Falcons. So 1-1, 2-1, 2-2, 3-2, 3-3 in their last 6. 500 record. They're not playing consistently good football right now, and that's the truth. They rely on Josh Allen to go nuclear, to go into MVP mode in order to win football games, which is ultimately why they fell out of the top 10. I think the Ravens are just playing some better football right now, and they're winning games more consistently. The other team that I wanted to throw in there is the Jacksonville Jaguars. They were on a bye week, so no way I could really move them up and, move somebody else out. Nothing like that on a bye week. But they were coming off before the bye week a huge W against the Chargers, which is another team right there in the AFC standings at 7-4. So it's a little jumbled from, I would say, 8 down. I think from 4 to 7, you got your 8-3 teams, which is kind of a little jumbled section right there. And then, of course, you got your top 3 teams that simply haven't lost in a while. The Broncos 8-game win streak, Rams 6-game win streak, Pats 9-game win streak. So all 3 teams at the top, they're hot. They're playing great football on both sides of the ball. And then from there down, I think you can I think everything else is discussable at the end of the day. But just to read it off one more time for you guys, from 10 to 1. Number 10, we got the Ravens coming in at 6-5. They're on a 5-game win streak. Got the Packers coming in at number 9, 7-3-1 on the season. 49ers at 8. They're 8-4 on the season. Chicago Bears at 7. They're 8-3 on the season. We got the Colts at number 6. They're also 8-3. Seahawks at 5, 8-3. Eagles at 4, 8-3. Then we got the Patriots at 10-2 at number 3. Rams at 9-2, number 2, and Broncos also 9-2 at number 1, coming off the bye. So that concludes the top 10 power rankings portion, and it concludes our Week 12 recap. I do want to get you guys geared up for the Thanksgiving slate as well as Black Friday, and then we'll quickly breeze through the Sunday slate for Week 13 as well. But let's start at the top. We'll start with the first game on the Thanksgiving slate. It's a game I alluded to in the top 10 power rankings when talking about the Green Bay Packers. We got the Green Bay Packers at 7-3-1 visiting the Detroit Lions, who are 7-4 on the season. I mentioned it earlier. You had a Week 1 showdown between the Packers and the Detroit Lions. I believe this one was at Lambeau. That is correct. And the Packers were able to win this game 27-13. Yeah, Jared Goff go 31 for 39, 225, one touchdown, one INT. The big thing as I just looked at this this box score for that first matchup, the Lions were not able to run the football at all against this Packers defense. Montgomery was their leading rusher, 11 carries, 25 yards. He was 2.3 yards per carry. Jahmyr Gibbs, 9 carries, 19 yards, 2.1 yards per carry. As a team, 22 carries, 46 yards, 2.1 yards per carry in that week 1 matchup. Now, maybe that's offense of the Lions figuring things out, the rushing offense specifically figuring things out week 1. Maybe it's just the Packers' sturdy defense that they've shown consistently throughout this season. On the other side, yeah, Jordan Love have a pretty clean game, 16 for 22, 188 passing yards, 2 tutties, no INTs. Josh Jacobs, 19 carries, 66 yards, 1 touchdown in that matchup. Big thing for the Packers going into this one. Josh Jacobs is questionable. And obviously he is going to be a huge piece to the puzzle. They're going to need him consistently in that backfield, making things happen. Now, I know Emmanuel Wilson, he was able to kind of get off in, Josh Jacobs' absence last week. This is a little bit different of a ball game, being a in-division rivalry. You're going to be traveling to Detroit. In this matchup, man, Detroit is favored, as they should be at home, in my opinion. Can Green Bay score with Detroit? Can Green Bay's defense hold Detroit down again? I guess is the bigger question, right? We saw Detroit go into Philadelphia, only come away with what? Was it 7 or 9 points, something like that? That is not enough, right? And we know that's not what the Lions are usually up to. But that was outside. Right. That was outside in the freezing cold. There was a wind advisory. We know Jared Goff does not play good football outdoors. They're going to be back at home in Detroit in the Dome. And I think that's going to make a huge difference for Jared Goff, as it usually does. And I think the Lions are going to be able to score some points in this matchup. So with that being said, are the Packers going to be able to score the points needed to compete at this level with the Detroit Lions? The defense is really going to have to step up for the Packers, in my opinion, because I don't know about the offense. I need to see Jordan Love open it up. No Tucker Kraft out there. Obviously, Josh Jacobs is a big piece that's questionable. I'm gonna go with the Lions in this one. It's definitely hard to pick through, but it's hard to also see the Packers winning both of these matchups against a division rival like the Detroit Lions, who, quite frankly, need it more. Both these teams need it. They're basically the same record. Packers get the nod with the tie, but yeah, this is going to be a tough one. Tough one on Thanksgiving. I'm going with the Lions. I do think they cover that 3-point spread, and I do think their offense kind of has a day in respect to what the Green Bay Packers defense is. I think this could be a bad day for the Green Bay Packers defense. I'm going to go with the Lions in this one. Next up, we have the 6-5 Kansas City Chiefs taking on the 5-1 Dallas Mavericks. In this matchup, Kansas City is a 3.5-point favorite on the road. I was actually, after the W for Dallas coming back against the Eagles, down 21 points, I was surprised to see Kansas City favored on the road. I know Kansas City needs it. I know Kansas City has the history, right? The past. They're the dynasty. Whatever you want to say about Patrick Mahomes is one of the best quarterbacks of all time. But you're on the road against a high-scoring Dallas offense that should be highly confident coming off a victory against, at the time, an 8-2 Philadelphia Eagles team. But for some reason, the Kansas City Chiefs are still 3.5-point favorites on the road in this one. I think that's because the books know. The books know. I talked about this a little bit on the Faithful Fanatic. The books know what's up with the Cowboys, man. That was a one-time thing. It was a one-time thing, getting a big W against the Eagles. Something that was brought to my attention. These are two teams that always split regardless of where each team is at in that said season. I watched the Eagles lose to the Giants as well in a division rival earlier this season. So for my money, I'm with the books on this one. I think that the Kansas City Chiefs are going to come into Dallas. I think they're going to handle business. And I simply don't think Dallas is going to get those favorable officiating calls that they got against the Eagles, against the Chiefs. So yeah, I do kind of see the Chiefs going into Dallas and just kind of continuing what they were able to do in that comeback against Indianapolis. And that start to rack up some momentum towards making the postseason. I'm not going to go out on a limb and say the Chiefs are going to make it. I do think they're going to get a second W in a row against the Dallas Cowboys team. That the main thing, people say their defense has gotten better since the trade deadline. You played the Raiders with Geno Smith, and you played the Eagles with Kevin Patullo. I've got to see it against Patrick Mahomes, Rashee Rice, a guy that's going off right now. You obviously got the running back, Kareem Hunt, not my favorite. He's a little old for my liking. They did pick up Damian Pierce, so we'll see how he kind of fits into the mix. Got Isaiah Pacheco. But on the other side of the ball, can Kansas City defense control Dallas, right? Like, I don't know if Kansas City's defense is going to, just strap Dallas's offense down. I don't see that happen. I think Dallas has a little too much talent for that to happen. George Pickens been playing out of his mind. He is questionable going into this game. I know he came up with a little tweak at the end of that game against the Eagles, but that's obviously a big, big piece into the puzzle for the Dallas Cowboys. Can the Chiefs limit that Cowboys offense? The over is set at 52.5. So the books do expect this to be high scoring. I just don't see Dallas stopping Mahomes. Mahomes has been able to throw this season. He's been able to have MVP caliber games this season. The big thing for him will be not turning the ball over in this matchup. I'm going to go with the Chiefs on the road. I'm going to be hate watching the fuck out of the Cowboys this week. I'm not even going to lie. So yeah, take that pick with a grain of salt. There's definitely some bias and some revenge and some angst in that pick nonetheless. Last matchup for the Thanksgiving slate. It's kind of exciting. If these teams were at full strength all season, I think this would be a hell of a matchup on Thanksgiving evening. But you look at the other two matchups and you're like, well, why aren't one of those the night game for the Thanksgiving slate? But nonetheless, you got the Bengals 3-8 visiting the 6-5 Ravens, who I mentioned earlier have won 5 straight since Lamar has come back. Not that Lamar has quarterbacked all of those games, but they have won every game since Lamar has come back, and they are on a 5-game winning streak. Baltimore is a 7-point favorite in this one. The total is set at 52.5 as well. The big thing in this one, outside of Baltimore just continuing this stretch of, trying to climb back into the postseason picture in the AFC, climb back into the division picture of winning the AFC North. The big thing here is that Joe Burrow is set to return from the toe injury. I believe it was turf toe that he was dealing with. Nonetheless, he's set to return in this matchup. And obviously that's a big addition. They've been playing with Joe Flacco, which he can sling it, but a little reckless with the ball for my liking. Obviously, you get Joe Burrow back. You should get Jamar Chase back from the spitting incident, his suspension. But then obviously T. Higgins I do believe he is out with a concussion nonetheless. So they will be down T. Higgins. But Joe Burrow is a huge, huge addition. And how lucky for the Ravens that he returns against them. Hopefully he's just a little rusty for the Ravens, right? But no, I do think the Ravens come away with this W. I do think the Ravens get 6 in a row. That Cincinnati defense, even with Joe Burrow returning, that Cincinnati defense is garbaggio. So I do think the Ravens end up winning this one. Do I think they cover the 7? Seven's a lot for my liking because I do think the Bengals will score points with Joe Burrow back, barring Joe Burrow just being like ridiculously rusty. I do think the Bengals will score points. They've been scoring points without him, quite honestly. I don't know that I like Baltimore to cover the 7. I do like Baltimore to win nonetheless at home. We'll see what Joe Burrow's got in his return. I'm actually a little excited for that one, given my dynasty team. My dynasty team is cooked. Joe Burrow, Jaden Daniels are my quarterbacks. They've been out most of this season. But, it'll be nice to just see Joe Burrow back out there again, hopefully slinging that thing. That's it for the Thanksgiving slate. So we got Detroit getting the dub for my money on Thanksgiving, the first game of the day. Got Kansas City winning in Dallas in the second game of the day. And then the Baltimore Ravens winning at home against Cincinnati to end out Thanksgiving. Then we move into the Black Friday slate. Just one game, obviously. I mentioned it earlier. The 8-3 Chicago Bears visiting the 8-3 Philadelphia Eagles. Bears coming off a big win against Pittsburgh. Eagles coming off a big loss against Dallas. These two teams collide. Chicago, don't really know what to make of them just yet. I think this is a big barometer game for me. Just kind of seeing how their offense specifically plays against this Philadelphia defense, for my money, is a top 3 unit right now in the NFL. So we really got to see how Caleb Williams fares against that defense. Defense a little beat up. Reed Blankenship questionable for this game. Andrew Makuba goes to IR, so your 2 starting safeties are banged up. Sidney Brown's definitely going to start. We'll see what's up with Reed Blankenship as we get closer to Friday. On the opposite end, it's very similar, if not worse, for the Chicago Bears defense. I mentioned it earlier. They're statistically ranked the 27th worst defense in the NFL. But along with that, they just have a receipt-long injury report right now, and a lot of those injuries are on the defensive side of things. So this is a great opportunity for the Philadelphia Eagles offense to get some things going, right? They really need to get the run game going consistently, get Saquon going out of that backfield, and more importantly, just consistently score throughout a game. Stop going on these, 2-quarter, 3-quarter droughts of no scoring. It's a bit ridiculous. So you look at the line in this one, the Eagles are 7-point favorites. They're at home. They're the defending champs. They're coming off a big loss against Dallas. I do get it. 7 points. 7 points feels like a lot, even for me as an Eagles fan who's fairly confident going into this game that the Eagles are going to bounce back. 7 points feels like a lot. Not something I'm comfortable laying, to be completely transparent as an Eagles fan. I will not be laying the Eagles -7. They easily could. They easily could not, right? Like, it's one of those things. That line is just way too long for me. For my money, given the way the Eagles offense has played the last few weeks, I'd probably go 4.5. Philly -4.5 going into this one. They're at home. 7 is a lot. I think the books are feeling the Eagles a little too much there, but I do have the Eagles ultimately winning this matchup. I think the defense is too good. That's not the Dallas offense that you're looking at it on the other side there. It's not an in-division rivalry, so the Bears don't know you that well, like the Cowboys would. So I do like the Eagles in this matchup as a bounce back. I would love to see if the Bears can keep it close, just in regards to see what caliber team they really are. Are they a legitimate playoff team? Because I don't know yet. Maybe I'm not being fair. Let me know out there. Yeah, so I got the Eagles beating the Bears on Black Friday. Sunday, we got some big matchups. I'll go through those really quickly, and then we'll get out of here with some best bets going into the weekend. Don't have anything best bet-wise for Sunday just yet. We got to see the injury reports, all of that, before we get into that. But really quickly here to finish out the show. We got the 8-4 San Francisco 49ers visiting the 3-8 Cleveland Browns. San Francisco 4.5-point favorite in that one. The over-under is set at 36.5. A guy I didn't really highlight in the recap of Week 12, Shedeur Sanders. Let me just pull up his stats really quick. We haven't talked about Shedeur on this show maybe as much as other shows. I don't know. I don't find the need to talk about a QB3 on the depth chart, but he's QB1 now, and he had a decent day. 11 for 20 against the Raiders, 209 passing yards, a touchdown, an interception. He goes out there, he throws what was it? What was the long? Why is it not showing it under his stats? I thought so. Yeah, 60. So he had a 66-yard pass. He also had a 52-yard pass. So I imagine that made up most of his passing yards. But nonetheless, that was a good first showing for Shedeur Sanders. The over sitting at 36.5. I kind of like the over in that one. First I'm looking at it. I definitely like San Fran to win, but I do think the Cleveland Browns will be able to put up some points with Shedeur back there at quarterback. San Fran minus 4.5 on the road. Tough Cleveland defense. Brock Purdy coming off a 3-interception game against Carolina on national television. I'm going to go with the Niners. I do think they cover. I do think there'll be a little too much for the Browns. I do like the over, though. I think the Browns will be able to score enough for that to hit. Next, we got the Houston Texans, 6-5, visiting the Indianapolis Colts at 8-3. Indianapolis Colts are 4.5-point favorites coming into this one. This is a huge game for the AFC South. Colts 8-3 right now. Texans 6-5. Texans on a what? I think it's a 4 or 5 game win streak currently after beating the Bills on Thursday Night Football. They were playing better football with Davis Mills at quarterback. Is CJ Stroud? He has to be back this week. If he's not back this week, then they're playing games. Yeah, it looks like he's going to return from concussion. He's been out like 3 weeks with a concussion, which I don't know. I guess you can have, more severe cases of concussions that keep you out longer, but that's just really weird that he's been out this long. Man, it's in Indianapolis. The Colts should win. I'm going to go with the Texans, man. I'm going to go with the Texans on the road. It's just it's a weird feeling I have that the Texans are going to make the AFC South competition a lot closer and a lot more competitive. If the Texans win on the road here, they move to 7-5. Colts would move to 8-4. That would separate them by 1 game at that point. And now you have a race, right? So I am going to go with the Texans. I think their defense, man, their defense has been just causing turnovers, creating havoc. DeMeco Ryans has those guys flying around. They play really, really aggressively. They play fast. They could go in here and get some turnovers against Daniel Jones. 2 losses in a row for the Colts. That's tough to see with the way they've been playing. Can they hone in, lock in with Jonathan Taylor? I just don't think this is a game you can win by just spam running Jonathan Taylor. He go for 200 yards. I just don't see it that way. What did their first matchup look like? Let's take a look at that. Did they play yet? They have not played yet. Interesting enough. So this is the first matchup. This is the first that Daniel Jones is going to see. That Texans defense, it kind of gives me even more confidence in going into this game. I'm going to go with Houston to win. Obviously, I think they cover if they win, so I would take Houston plus 4.5 on the road. That defense is serious, and I just think it kind of balances things out again. It's kind of one of those things that just needs to happen to make things more competitive. Maybe I'm just feeling that way after the Eagles lose to the Cowboys to keep the NFC East competitive. Maybe that's what it is, guys. I'm sorry. I'll go with the Texans on the road against the Colts there. Next, we have the Rams visiting the Carolina Panthers, who are 6-6. Rams 9-2. Rams go into this one. They're 10.5-point favorites. I think the Rams run away with this one, just like they've been doing against all of these other teams. The Carolina Panthers have been sturdy. Bryce Young has played some good football this year for my money, some better football. Let me put it that way. But I just think this Rams offense is going to be too much for the Carolina Panthers, even on the road. And the Rams defense is strapping up. They got a mean front seven. Secondary is a little beat up, but I don't think Bryce Young and that Carolina Panthers offense is built to exploit that. So I think the Panthers have a rough day. I actually like the Rams to cover that 11-point spread. We got an in-division or in-conference matchup between the Minnesota Vikings and the Seattle Seahawks. Vikings 4-7. Their season is going on kind of a downhill spiral with the QB situation, whether it's injuries or J.J. McCarthy playing or Carson Wentz playing, whatever the case may be. It hasn't been good. Seattle, on the other hand, 8-3, coming off a dub against the Tennessee Titans. Seattle, 11.5-point favorites in this one. Is this a Sam Darnold revenge game? Like, does he have ill feelings towards the Vikings for moving on from him? It's a perplexing game just in the fact that you have on one side Sam Darnold playing some really good football for Seattle, and on the other side a team that is completely strapped down because of a quarterback situation that is horrible. And you could have just kept Sam Darnold, who had a great connection with Addison and Jettas. So it'll be interesting. I think Seattle is going to try to lay the hammer on Minnesota. It's in Seattle. That Seattle defense is real, so I don't think Minnesota is going to have fun against them. And I think Sam Darnold has a day against that Minnesota Vikings defense just to kind of, rub it in their face for moving on from him for really no reason other than, faith in J.J. McCarthy, which right now does not look like it was made in good faith, if that makes sense. Next, we got the 7-4 Buffalo Bills visiting the 6-5 Pittsburgh Steelers. Buffalo comes in, they're 3.5-point favorites on the road against Pittsburgh. I do believe Aaron Rodgers is going to be out of this one. Let me just double check here. Broken wrist. He was questionable last week, which that's what didn't make sense to me. He's questionable this week as well. It's not his throwing wrist, so I guess you can still play with that, but I don't know, man. He wasn't playing like lights out football in the first place for my money, so I don't know if it's worth throwing him out there. It is a game that Pittsburgh needs, right? Because the Ravens, they play the Bengals on Thanksgiving. They beat the Bengals. They'll move to 7-5. Pittsburgh loses to the Bills. They'll move to 6-6. Ravens, welcome to the top of the division, just like that. So it is a huge spot for Pittsburgh at home. I'm going to go with the up and down Bills, man. I think that Josh Allen, to my point earlier, it takes a MVP caliber game. It takes him going nuclear for the Bills to win most games. I think he can do that against the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think he can do enough against the Pittsburgh Steelers. My one concern for Buffalo, will they be able to stop the run? Jaylen Warren, Kenneth Gainwell, they have proven to be a pretty solid duo out of that Pittsburgh backfield. Can Buffalo stop the run in this game? If they can do that, they'll take care of this game pretty easily for my money. I like Buffalo to win on the road there. Just two more matchups that I'm really looking at out of this slate. Denver 9-2 visiting the Washington Commanders. Really just looking at this game because Denver's coming out of the bye week. Can't afford to have any lapses right in the AFC right now. Go ahead, take care of business against a beat up Washington Commanders team, 3-8 on the season. Denver 6-point favorites in this one. I do like Denver to win, and I like them to win in dominant fashion. So I do like them to cover that 6-point spread as well. Which I think that is, that was Sunday Night Football. That would have been a great matchup, obviously, if, is Jaden Daniels playing in this one? He dislocated his elbow, 2-3 weeks ago? He's questionable. Jaden Daniels plays, it could be an interesting game. He can make it interesting, but is it worth it to throw him out there on a 3-8 team against a 9-2 team on national television? Maybe. I see why they had it as Sunday Night Football originally, but might not play out to the matchup that we were expecting at the beginning of the season, right? I like Broncos to cover there. And then Monday Night Football. Jackson Dart plays could be interesting. Seeing Jackson Dart against Drake May, maybe, right? Giants are really beat up. Lost Cam Scatabo for the season. Lost Malik Neighbors for the season. Once again, I see the potential if those guys are healthy. You're going up against a 10-2 New England team that is rolling right now. Drake May playing some really good ball. It's in New England. It's in Foxborough. Could the Giants surprise? Could the Giants surprise the Pats? Jackson Dart's questionable. I think he was in concussion protocol. They only lost to the Lions by what? 7. They lost to the Packers by 7. They lost to the Bears by 4. New England is a 7.5 point favorite. New England should win this one. I'm going to pick New England to win, as a 10-2 team should against a 2-10 team. For some reason, this game is just sticking out to me as a be careful spot for the New England Patriots and the streak that they've been on. But yes, Drake May playing lights out football, beat up New York Giants offense. I'll go with the Patriots at home, the 10-2 football team. But no, it's an okay slate. I think they stacked up the games on Thanksgiving pretty good. The first 2 games of Thanksgiving are really, really good. Black Friday game, really, really good. 2 8-3 NFC teams. And then you got a few matchups scattered throughout Sunday, but nothing too crazy. They put all the meat on the big days, right? Thanksgiving and Black Friday, which makes sense. You want all the eyes on those games, but had some potential with Sunday Night Football, Monday Night Football, but just too many injuries on those NFC East teams right now. But just to give you guys a few best bets to close out the show here, we have the first one I have written down here. I mentioned it earlier. It's the first game of Thanksgiving. It is one that I like. I like the Lions at home, -2.5. It's at -115 on DraftKings. I just look at the Lions right now. They're healthier, especially on offense, and they're at home. Jared Goff plays well at home. He plays well indoors. I do think the Lions are going to score too many points for the Packers in this matchup. So I am going with the Lions -2.5 at home. Another play from Thanksgiving, I'm going with Rashee Rice over 75.5 receiving yards against the Cowboys. That's -112 on DraftKings. Just looking at the production that AJ, Smitty were able to have against that Cowboys defense, I feel like the Eagles didn't exploit it enough going to those matchups. I think Patrick Mahomes, that Kansas City offense, they will exploit those matchups, those mismatches. And I think Rashee Rice has a big day. And then Black Friday, I do have 2 best bets for that game as well. I am going, instead of the spread, I'm going with the Eagles team total over. It's time, guys. The Eagles are going to score 27 points on Friday. I'm going with Philly over 25.5 points at -118. That Chicago Bears defense is really beat up. You're going to see a really motivated Philadelphia Eagles offense. I think they go out there and score. I also like A.J. Brown to get in the end zone again. I think they go back to that well, and I think they go to it a lot this weekend. +150 for A.J. Brown to score. Let's get a little streak going. Get him in the end zone 2 weeks in a row. That doesn't sound like a bad idea. So I'm going with A.J. Brown to reawaken for the second straight week. We will get some best bets posted on the DSM_media page on X on Sunday for the Sunday slate. So keep an eye out for that. Give us a follow on X at DSM_media. And of course, on all social media platforms, you can find us at DSM_media. That's going to be it for this edition of NFL Turf Talk. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Enjoy the Week 13 slate, the Thanksgiving Black Friday slate. Enjoy some football, enjoy some food, and definitely enjoy some family time. Until next time, guys,